And joining us now is Republican Congressman Mike Garcia of California. He's also a former U.S. Navy pilot. This was actually quite alarming. Let me read to you just a little bit from the Wall Street Journal saying that with Mr. Biden proposing a separate $2.3 trillion for infrastructure, you'd think the Pentagon would be included. Aircraft and naval ships are certainly more justified as public works than subsidies to buy Teslas. Mr. Biden is making a conscious statement about his party's political priorities. Butter and more butter, but less for guns. Really marked contrast, Congressman.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dana. This is really ominous stuff. On the heels of the pandemic, we still have these two very large bears outside of our tent called Russia and China. And as a former naval aviator and a former operator in combat operations, I've seen what sequestration and the Budget Control Act did to readiness and our modernization programs. This president's budget is effectively flat. In a time where inflation is about to pick up, and he's also removed about a $70 billion bucket of money that's used to fund what's called the Overseas Contingency Operation. And this is where the warfighters get the technology and close the gaps that we have relative to nations like Russia and China. When you combine this, Dana, this budget requests with what's going around the globe, this is really frightening stuff that we're looking at here. On the southern border, we've got a crisis, a humanitarian crisis, that the commander-in-chief has downloaded to number 2. Number 2 has flushed this problem from her docket and now is looking at other things. When you go to the Middle East, we have a president now looking to rejoin the Iran nuclear deal, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which was none of those things. It wasn't joint, it wasn't comprehensive. They're on their way to getting a nuclear weapon. We see what's happening in Russia. We see what's happening in Afghanistan, North Korea, Taiwan. These are all real problems, and now is not the time to be scaling back our investments in our military.
Hotspots all over the world. Let's take a look at the spending increases in the proposed budget that the president put out. If we could have that for you here, and you can see, big plus-ups in education and commerce, and about defense is 1.6%. But Karl Rove said something very interesting when he was on with us last hour, and that is that in the budget as well, there is a lot of climate change that the Defense Department is going to have to do. So it's a 1.6% increase, it's actually probably a decrease for the things traditionally that you need in the military. And you think about China, an adversary that plays the long game, and we seem to be cutting off our nose to spite our face.
Yeah, that's right. This president has no macro-level national defense strategy. He's got no plan. He's got no policy. This is akin to an ad lib magazine on a day-to-day basis on how he's dealing with these. It's a 1.5% increase to the base budget, but like I said, he's actually removing the overseas contingency operation line items. And frankly, when you carve out all of those other social climate initiatives, this ends up being a huge impact to the warfighter. It will hurt us on the readiness, and it will certainly hurt us on the modernization front when we have China, who has not slowed down, and they continue to outpace us, and we're extremely vulnerable now in several domains as a result of this.
So the budget that the president put out, it is just a proposal. This hasn't passed yet. Do the Republicans have a way to try to do something better on defense?
Yeah, we've got to keep telling the story, and as it comes through Appropriations Committee and through the House Armed Service Committee, we need the military, the chiefs, to come in and testify as to what how this will impact the services, not only the readiness, but the future readiness and the capability side of things. We need to advocate for the services and make sure that we're getting our troops whole. It's hard to believe, but it's been 20 years since 9/11. The global war on terror has taken its toll. We've had troops do multiple deployments. Our equipment has been run into the ground, and we've started to get better in the last 4 years under the previous administration, but this is a 10-year problem, and we certainly can't, at this point, stop investing in our military.
And you would think that they would actually want to put more money into cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's right. Again, we saw the vulnerabilities from this recently. We are definitely not leading in the cyber domain, either offensively or defensively. Lots of investments in space that should be had. We have a new Space Force that could desperately need funds to do their job and their mission correctly. In the U.S. Navy alone, there's about a 50 aircraft shortfall, which equates to an entire air wing or one aircraft carrier that effectively will be missing aircraft if we don't get the funding that's been requested in the previous administration transferred over to this one. So a lot of weaknesses, and the biggest takeaway is that a nation has never been vulnerable or attacked because we were too strong. This is the opposite of Reagan's peace through strength, and right now we need to be paying attention to our military readiness and modernization and not forget those two giant bears that still are outside of our tent.
Congressman, thank you for joining us today. More to
you,
come.
Dana.
Thank you.
Thank you.